decide which 2 tables you want to sit at, but I need like 6 at each table. And take your candy with you. Take your candy with you.
Join us.
I'll take it too.
Wait, is it like a permanent move?
No, it's just we have a lot to discuss tonight. Yeah, so sit at 2 tables, should be 6 at 2 tables.
Probably should stick to that.
Now we got guys and girls.
She can tell my
You're a
texture.
table here.
Like, I'm dying. I was like, I was ready to go.
It's gonna be a no. Aren't you sick? No. Oh, I thought I saw something about food poisoning. Or was that somebody else?
It wasn't me. I could be dying and they still wouldn't know.
Although there's like a bunch of like.
Did you know what I want to hear about it? Yeah.
I'll have you sit here.
You're gonna want your. I'll save this talk.
She's on her way. I had dressed to a fancy day. But it was right in my head.
Okay.
I didn't wear that.
So now we can get started. If there's some late people, then they have to sit by themselves and do all the work by themselves.
Okay, sounds good.
But this way you have an opportunity to get some diverse conversation going. And maybe you can sit next to people you don't know very well. So go ahead and introduce yourself to the people that you're sitting with at your table.
Hello.
I'm thinking when I had a piece of chocolate right now. About to that, so I go first.
You need it now.
This is Cheryl.
Yeah, Cheryl.
I got you, Cheryl.
Great. What else was I supposed to
I
say?
think that's it. Just your name.
Okay, that's it. Sorry.
Flash brown. I just got married. I'm nice.
She'll just answer for me.
Word. Yeah. I'm Mary. Met Julia. For like and the guy's like,
Can you do a demo?
on the suit and all that stuff. My little fun
Everybody get a chance? Okay, first, there's a reason why I'm giving you the calendar again. There are 2 changes. One that we agreed to, and that was the next meeting is not the 11th, but the 12th, right? Because Monday was a holiday. And then I have to go to a conference on December 2nd down in Palm Springs and stay at the Swanky Hotel for me on December 2nd. So instead of meeting on the 2nd, we just kicked it to the end of the sessions. So now instead of December 2nd, we're going to meet March 9th. So it just extended it a couple of weeks. Give you a little more breather as we get into the holidays anyway. And anyway, but I got to be in the induction conference in Palm Springs. It used to be in Fresno, right? So we just get there and come back. Okay, make sure you sign in, get a little bit of everything. We are going to review, but I read your feedback, and y'all said you're tired of doing the stare and the UCOM, and okay. But we'll just review real quick. Today we're going to re-talk about Teach 2s. We're going to highlight it. You had a homework assignment. You're going to get a chance to share it. Did y'all enjoy that last time when we met and I made you go through it and teach it, and it was kind of fun? And y'all are looking at me like, no. How many of you try to teach 2? All right, we're going to hear from you in a little bit. And a reminder about proximity and organizing your room so that you can walk it. We're going to review diffusers today so that when somebody pops off and says something, you can say something that may be, but we still have to do it anyway. We'll look at prompts. We're going to look at a video today. Dalton, Sherman, you're going to love it. And then we are going to go deep diving into poverty in education. All right, so I promised I wouldn't make you review this because y'all feel silly, but how many of you are trying it You're not talking, you're just looking. How's it working for you?
Mostly, mostly really well. I do have a couple of students who really don't know what they're supposed to do.
Okay.
And so I will have to, after like, I don't know, maybe 45 seconds, I will have to verbally give them a redirection, but it's working out pretty well for the most part.
Good. Who else put their hand up? Someone over here? How's it going for you?
It's going good, other than like for my one or two who can't handle anything, but.
Okay. So we mentioned that it would take about 75 to 80% of your problems away just by using your physical presence, and that's kind of what you're finding. You still have that one outlier, and we still have more tools for you to use. Teach-tos, we mentioned that we said that if you expect behavior, you have to teach it. And even though you're teaching sophomores, and they should know, you can't assume. And we had talked about how children today may not be raised the way you were taught, and we talked about how norms in your house are not the same in other people's houses, and we even said that disrespect that's coming to you may not be intended as disrespect, or it may very well be intended as disrespect, but you're not the target, and to, at the very least, not take any of this personal, okay? All right, so now we want to talk about your teach-tos. In your table groups, I want you to talk about what was good about your teach-to, what was bad, and what was ugly, and what will you do next time. Ready? Come on now. The link's not working. Alright, so what I want you to do is share until you hear that music, the good, the bad. How many like Clint Eastwood, right? Really?
Someone probably don't know who it is.
Some of you don't know who Clint Eastwood is? He used to be mayor of Carmel.
Not yet.
Y'all need to watch the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Has some reserve, right?
There's two kind of people in this world. Those with guns, and those who did. You did. Alright, so real quick in your table groups, talk about what worked with your teach-tos. What was good?
I do teach-tos all the time, so they work really well with this. Well, you just teach, so I don't.
I did the carpet, going to desk, and going through summers. And I might just do it again for the one or two who are just killing it for everyone. And I kind of want to use the peer pressure to go for them, so I might just redo it.
And so if they didn't do well, then we're going to go outside and line up like in an elementary, and then we're like I could go inside one by that. And so I did have to like teach them. I did have to line them up outside one. So it hasn't been too bad. I think it's pretty good.
So happy that right after we did this. Yes.
Right.
And I was like, well, we still work on it. As quickly as we did, but it's helpful to have together. Or they're very much the same. When I go to again.
But we had to do it after the fire drill when kids were not lining up correctly.
It helps with the problem because no one's.
With teach-tos, you're going to have to revisit them
From the classroom to
throughout the year.
because it's like this long hallway that we have.
I told my teacher kindergarten, I do teach-tos from the beginning to the end, so yeah, constantly.
No doubt. And it works.
We do like the sign for walking,
It'll
and then
be
we have a
shocked.
song. It's like a walking song that she created. She has all these songs, and so we sing with the kids. And
You're going to do your wah, wah, wah.
the kids start signing.
But
They
okay.
start signing like we used to walk and sign. And then the parents also, they kind of sing along the walking song, and it's been helpful getting in front. Just not, even like I feel like
Okay.
I'm better about holding
Someone else share what went bad
And you know what I think is the best part?
and how would you improve it? What didn't work with the teach-to and how would you improve it? Someone else.
From his home to the
Go.
car, he would be more attentive with mom. So mom is now like, she's in the walking sign, the music, and holding his hand.
It's a group. Yeah.
Oh, in groups. Oh.
It's so good just to hear that. Oh, that's not my outcome anymore.
Well, what didn't work is I would
And he would just like that.
and then
Okay, so
I
what
would
was
get
good
messed
about
up,
it?
and so
What
that
was bad? What do you guys think?
confuse kids.
Or we
So,
supposed to say that?
no, I need
this
the
is-
next
yeah, we
time to
just did a
think
good, I
about
think we're
all of
doing
the
it.
steps
Okay,
before.
what was the bad?
Envision it.
Make
Yeah.
everybody else look bad.
Or you'll get sidetracked.
Stop it.
Like I was one of those kids could say one thing and then totally get off on another
That
tangent.
is
And
not
I'd be
that I'm
like,
saying, no. Don't do it.
and I totally lost
No,
momentum.
we're teaching
Yeah.
parents are
All
learning,
because I was
so-
spacey.
Okay, I won't say anything.
Kindergarten, we always had random things that happen. So I think, I was doing actually a teach today about something in science.
The bad part is
about
outside
we're
of
learning
this.
how to be good scientists.
When
And
our teacher
you didn't have
is
a class
not
right now,
there,
kids bleeding and got kicked in the face.
the
So
music,
those are the bad things that happen.
Yeah.
So when
You have a
we
random, like your teacher has to bring all those kids in.
inside, we're not
So-
in tune to
Or
the
you,
song.
or something happens in the classroom and everybody's
Going back,
completely distracted and
Right.
ruined for the rest of the day.
Outside, we have a teacher goes inside song.
And then you
We
can't
don't know
get
the
them
words
back
without
in.
our-
Because they don't know how to control their, we were talking about a kid at Washington.
So we have to work with each other.
His mom's been dying of cancer for like 4 years.
You can go outside and come in, yeah.
Nobody was getting through to him, you know, nobody was getting through to him. And he's super sweet, but over the years he's gotten harder and harder and harder to keep people at bay.
I did a lot of mine at the
And
beginning of the year.
I mean, I see kids like that, and like,
Yeah, like my fourth year teaching.
they need
So I
somebody
figured it out
good
pretty
to be
quick.
consistent in their life. You know, he
So like at the beginning of the year,
I lost my
I
train of
literally
thought.
took them outside to the buses.
Well, he probably gets off
After
track,
buses
so he
leave
gets
and
the class
everything,
off
and we
track.
line up.
Oh, he would
And
sit
we
in
come
one
in,
corner and take his backpack and put it on his head. And the kids have all been with him for so long that now they don't even pay attention, which is good. So we just ignored him and then he gave up.
Homework away, like we do all the
But,
steps all
you
together.
know, everything he can do to try to get a laugh or.
You know, make a
And then I'm like, that poor kid though.
But I need to
Nobody really take care of him.
Okay. What was ugly? What is something you won't do next time? Sit in your table groups. What, absolutely, oh, I'm never gonna do this again. Try it.
I won't say anything.
Quiet.
You won't forget the music.
I wasn't here.
And we won't forget, and we'll put batteries in that speaker. That we charge it because sometimes we have a lot of kiddos and families, so we're not able to hear the music, and so sometimes our off tune
she was
is
sick,
low.
but I wasn't.
I'm
next.
Right.
I gotta turn it on.
That's about as happy as we did today.
So then we have to use our cell phones and our iPads, like sticking with the kids, which is just
I
always
wasn't really easy too, but you know when you say something and you realize what you're saying, the kids like tactic to start losing it because like you didn't mean it at a certain way. You're like, oh man, I just lost it. Like
Yeah.
just one of those things. So I don't have to think much.
All right, we're gonna move on.
Think of who they were before.
every company is set and established. Okay, let's try this again. What are those called?
Yeah.
Bulletin boards. Yeah, dry erase boards.
Yes.
Let's try it.
Oh, they got quiet.
Anyone else wants to share?
Sweet. So, this is kind of just a readable. What do we do if a student doesn't know how to read? We teach them to read. What if they don't know how to swim? We teach them to swim. Except for the parents that just throw them in and say. And what do we do if a student doesn't know how to multiply? We teach. So what do we do when your classroom management is ineffective? If there's something going wrong, look at yourself first and then teach whatever through a teach to. I guess you guys talked about proximity last time, right? Mm-hmm. So it's important to make sure you don't invade the bubble, because at that point then it becomes offensive to them and you're challenging them. So you can stay away. Unless you've got a really good relationship with the kid, then they're probably comfortable with you moving in on them. So use silence, 2 to 3 feet away, diffusers. The kid in the back, you go, hey, we're doing Romeo and Juliet today. And some kid in the back goes, oh, that is so gay. You can say, that may be, but we're still going to read it. Or, okay, I understand, but you're still going to, basically you're still going to read it. Probably so, I'm sorry and nevertheless. And the story that somebody told about this is make sure you're careful who you say these things to. This one teacher had a board member's child in the class, and the kid said, I think he said, I don't get it, I'm stupid. And she said, that may be, but we're going to do this anyway. So, I mean, obviously, I love sarcasm, and this doesn't have to be sarcastic, but of course it would be with me. So, and prompts. You know, the things like, you know, Mary, are you on task? Verbal prompt. A statement, and never ask. Never say, could you please sit down? Mm-mm. They're in your world. You can still be nice, but you need to say, you will sit down. And don't challenge them, don't square up on them. You know, you need to put that away. I'm not questioning, I'm not letting them question me. I'm making a statement, and then, you know, all of you can find your way to do that, that you're not as strict or as hard as maybe some of us will come across. Behavioral momentum, that's not right. But that's basically also chunking, where instead of throwing a huge article at a kid, you give them a paragraph at a time, or you teach them how to annotate and you read one paragraph at a time. But to some kids, they see all that and they're going to shut down. So that's why you break it up, make it easier. You know, all the EL stuff that we were taught. You can gesture. Like if I walk over and he's kind of distracted, I can point. I can expect, you know, I can wait until he nods. Modeling. You know, if I say, okay, we're going to be sitting down and I'm going to sit down and model it. Or I can model it by showing up on the board, working through a problem. That's modeling. And so you can use that also for behavior. For instance, your 1 to 2 kids that you guys keep talking about, ask one of them, hey, I need you to come up here and help me with this question. And then, you know, basically you hand the marker to him and or she and back up and let them, and you've empowered them and you shut them up. You know, hopefully. Hopefully he doesn't start drawing dirty pictures or something. And then physical, you know, some kids you just got to help them. You're pointing, you're watching them write it. You're pointing, you're watching them write it. Is that hard? Yes. Should you have to do that? Absolutely not. And if you're doing it, always make sure you're open to your class so they think you're looking at them, even if you're not. Any questions about these prompts? You probably do most of them. You just probably didn't know for this that's how it fell under. So, my mom, when we were kids, used to say, your sister thinks she's a loser because you told her she was a loser. And I said, no. That, you know, it's different when sisters say it, but my sister is absolutely not, and would kill me, can beat me up if she wanted to. But I started thinking about that, and then you talk to some of your kids, and you hear that their teacher said, you'll never amount to anything, or you'll never go to UCLA. This kid comes in, you know, he's a troubled kid, and he says, I want to go to Harvard. Instead of saying, all right, cool, good for you. The minute you say, you'll never make it to Harvard, you shot that kid under. He's never gonna forget that you said that to him, ever. And I had high school kids telling me, oh my God, I had a 3rd grade teacher that said I would never be able to pass math. And he was a mathematician, you know, that was his gig. He was one of those science math kids. And then I had a teacher in 5th grade. I guess I was a voracious reader. My parents are, apparently I was. And this 5th grade teacher, I came in and showed him a book I was reading, and he said, that's trash, and threw it away. And my mom said, I think it was the Hardy Boys or whatever the girl version was, Nancy Drew, and he threw it away saying it was trash. And it was 4th, 5th grade. And I read all the time, so it's not like I had a low reading level, but anyway, threw it away, and my mom said I didn't pick up a book again. I didn't realize I didn't, but now that she tells me, the only ones I ever picked up were the ones assigned to you in English. But I was like, wow, I didn't even remember that happening. But, so if you tell someone a loser, or you treat them like they're a loser, if you ignore them, we talked about that quiet kid that sits in the corner, don't ignore them, they're easy. And it's easy to ignore them. But that tells them that I don't care about them. So I need to make sure I make an effort with those kids. But if people look at us as a loser, we become to believe we're a loser. If a kid has one adult who believes in him, that person can have a transforming quality. If you surround a group of kids with people who believe in them, just imagine what can happen. And here's a case in point. I haven't told them that story about the first Avid class? No. Okay. I did Avid, and they said, oh my God, you're gonna be exhausted, and I thought, whatever, I was a basketball coach, I know how it is, I'll have it. I was exhausted, absolutely exhausted. The first week of school, 10 times what I ever was before. And I'm like, whatever. So I'm looking at this class of kids, and Avid, for those of you that don't know, they pick them based on, middle kids, kids that test medium, usually minorities or kids with special circumstances, one parent, whatever, different. So at Central, we cast a pretty big net. But our first interview session was, do you want to go to college? And of course, all of them go, yeah. You like field trips? Yeah. You make it into Avid. That was our first group of kids. So we had kids in there that an Avid class is a mix anyway, but we had the Aggie over here, we had the kids that was a little on the outs, the fringe over here, and we had this bunch of gangbangers, and I was like, there's no way this class is going to be close. Because Avid, they stay together for 4 years, and they stay with me for 4 years. So we become really close, and I'm looking and going, no way. But I thought, I've got to tell them they're great, So I stood up, and I'm looking, I'm like, oh God. And I go, you guys know why you're in here? Oh no, because they put us in here. And I said, no. I said, you were handpicked. And you were handpicked because somebody believes in you. And I said, and you're smart. What? I'm like, yeah, you are smart. So we're going to do it. And then every day I'd get up and say, you guys are awesome, we're going to do this. 100% of them got into four-year colleges. 100%. And what's cool about that is everybody goes, oh, great job, coach. Wasn't me. They put so much pressure and guide each other. It was insane. Because somebody told them, I believe in you. I didn't believe in them at first. But as they started growing and becoming closer, and I was like, this is really happening. That is so cool. And then they just picked each other up. And they've had a couple deaths and stuff. They all go to the funerals still. They all go to the weddings. Like, they're close buddies. And that's the cool thing about Avid. But it's also, it's interesting that some of these kids had no business really being in college. They could have, I could see them doing a trade, I could see them doing those things. But they all went to college. And, I do know where most of them are. And a couple of them are attorneys and lawyers, and a lot of them are teachers. But all because somebody said they believed in them. It is powerful. Already?
You put it in there. You have to go?
No. Do we need a break, or can we go through?
Keep going through.
All right. This is Dalton Sherman. Has anybody seen him before? Good. He is awesome.
Here and what really makes a difference. So at this time, without further ado, I would like to introduce our keynote speaker for this back to school convocation, Dalton Sherman from Charles Rice Learning Center.
question, Dallas ISD. Do you believe in my classmates? Do you believe that every single one of us can graduate ready for college or the workplace? You better, because next week we're all showing up in your schools. All 157,000 of us. And what we need from you is to believe that we can reach our highest potential. No matter where we come from, whether it's sunny South Dallas, whether it's Pleasant Grove, whether it's Oakview, or North Dallas, or West Dallas, or wherever, you better not give up on us. No, you better not. Because, as you know, in some cases, you're all we've got. You're the ones who feed us, who wipe our tears, who hold our hands, or hug us when we need it. You're the ones who love us when sometimes it feels like no one else does. And when we need it the most, don't give up on my classmates. Do you believe in your colleagues? Do you? I hope so, because they came to your school because they wanted to make a difference too. Believe in them, trust them, and lean on them when times get tough. We all know we kids can sometimes make it tough. Am I right? Can I get a amen? So whether you're a counselor or a librarian, a teacher assistant, or work in the front office, whether you serve up meals in the cafeteria, my favorite, or help keep the halls clean, or whether you're a teacher or a principal, we need you. Please believe in your colleagues and they'll believe in you. Do you believe in yourself? Do you believe that what you're doing is shaping not just my generation, but that of my children and my children's children? There's probably easier ways to make a living, but I want to tell you on behalf of all the students in Dallas, we need you. We need you now more than ever. Believe in yourself. Finally, do you believe that every child in Dallas needs to be ready for college or the workplace? Do you believe that Dallas students can achieve? We need you, ladies and gentlemen. We need Well, I'm not going there. I want to thank you for what you do for me and for so many others. Do you believe in me? Because I believe in me, and you helped me get to where I am today. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So this was 8 years ago. You just graduated valedictorian from high school. I bet his parents are teachers.
Oops.
I love that clip because it kind of ties into with what Steve's going to talk about in a bit. But, you know, you can imagine Dallas has a lot of inner city kids. And probably equivalent to what we have, because they're right on the border also, so they're going to have a lot of second language speaking children. And this was a year ago, so I could be off. This is what our kids come from, or what they experience. We have 6,400 EL. We have 120 children in foster homes. We are almost 90% free and reduced. We are only 25 proficient in ELA. And of course, math is worse than that, 16%. So you're facing this as a teacher every day. But what's the one thing that basically supersedes any words?
Compassion.
Huh?
Compassion.
Compassion, love, caring. Kids can read it. You don't have to say it. Just like when we were talking about making a kid feel like a loser. Did we do that activity with them yet? Did you guys do the 5 circles?
No, we haven't.
That would have been perfect today.
Sorry, we got a lot going on.
Yeah, sorry.
We'll do it, we'll do it.
What did you say about that? I don't know what I was going to say. So, I apologize, baseball cap and all that. We have no power. We're in that group. And it's not too bad, except showers are basically in a bucket. And I mean, even the kids, they didn't have school. And then up where my parents live, which is up by Sacramento, they've been out. They were out of power for 4 days, and then went back on for 2, and now they're off again for 3. And the problem is, so my mom passed away 2 weeks ago. So my dad is like spinning. He doesn't know what to do, nothing. And yesterday, or when we did have power, he went to turn the pump on or whatever, and it wouldn't work. So they called and they had to get a whole new well. They had to get, yeah. On top of everything else, yeah. So I was like, oh. And I mean, we just kind of got used to not showering. But sorry, I did shower yesterday. Well, actually, I showered in a bucket. So this is what you face, no easy task. But the one thing you can always show is love and caring. It doesn't matter whether they speak English. I think, especially early on, a lot of times if we are uncomfortable with that any other language, we tend to shy away from that child because we're not comfortable yet. But just remember that your body language and all of that says a lot to that child. Whether you can truly speak the language yet, that doesn't matter. I put my clicker down. You guys talked about this again before, but don't assume what your students know. And Steve, you told the whole you being divorced and all that story.
A little bit.
So you know, like, I went to my grandma and I knew I couldn't be loud, which is really hard. And I knew how to vacuum. She told me to vacuum in lines, and if it wasn't in lines, I had to redo it. Whereas at my house, I didn't have chores. I didn't have to do anything. And so I knew the rules of my grandparents was different than my parents. And that's what, it doesn't matter what your neighbor's like. It doesn't matter what your other grade level teachers are. When they walk into your room, that is your room. That is your domain. That is your kingdom. they need to conform to you. And they will respond in kind. Most of these kids want some kind of support and structure.
Okay, my turn.
Now Steve's turn.
All right. Take a look at these numbers for a moment. It's going to get more depressing. Take a look at these numbers for a
I'm
moment.
glad I started it off.
Just the two counties combined, the greater Fresno Madera area. What stands out? What pops at you?
Population.
Population of Madera or county or Fresno County or just together?
Well, I grew up in Fresno, but like everything's pretty much the same, but except for the population. The population's like
Property value is a
way
little more in Fresno.
yeah.
Poverty rate is a little higher in Fresno County than it is Madera County. Yeah. When I looked at this and I went the median income per household, think about that for a moment. Per household was this number. And think about what your paycheck is. That's per capita. What you make individually is per capita. And y'all make more than this. I think you do, or you're close to it. Okay, think about that for a moment. If you're married and you're both teachers, then that's double. You're already at 100,000. That's twice the median income for Madera County. Think about that for a moment. How poor is Madera County? We have 70,000 people in Madera, and another, 50, 70,000 out there, 80,000 in the county. How come we don't have a Target? How come we don't have In-N-Out Burger? How come, why don't these places come to Madera? And we're as big as Kingsburg.
There's no extra income, to spend on things like that.
There isn't. We're going to look at how this affects what's going on in the class in a moment. Compare that to California for a moment. What's the median income in California? Almost double. Right? The poverty rate is 15%. What did we say it was in Madera? 22, and Fresno's 25. Look at the value of the property throughout California.
Well,
Double.
you got like the Bay Area.
I get it. There's a lot of wealth concentrated in Orange County and the Bay Area. I get it. We're not there, are we? One of the things I noticed, even driving up and down the valley on 99, have you noticed that certain towns just look shabby on the freeway? The weeds are growing over, there's no pretty, you go to Modesto and it's got this nice, beautiful overpass.
Anywhere in Fresno on the freeway looks like crap.
I don't understand. Why do we get neglected? I don't understand. Okay, here's some facts I want you to think about. And some of these jumped out at me as well. High school graduation rate for Madera County is, for those that have graduated high school, it's about 60%. In Madera County, about 70%. In the state, it's almost 90%. Now I said per capita income. What does that mean again?
Per person.
Per person. Look at this number. $15,524. That's the average. That means that there's a whole bunch of people that are making less than that, right? And what does $15,000 represent? If you think about it in terms of hourly wage, where do you think you're at? If you were making that per year?
Minimum, right?
Yeah.
Minimum wage.
It's right about minimum wage. The city of Madera averages minimum wage. Think about it that way. The county's a little better, but look where California is. It's more than double. More than double. The poverty rate, and I'm going to give you another statistic that's going to make your heart sink. The poverty rate in Madera City is 27%. Madera County is 22%. California, they say, is about 13%. This statistic jumped out at me as well. 65% of Madera City residents rent. 65%. When we add those two that are near poverty, 48% of Madera County residents fall into this category, near poverty. What does it mean to be near poverty? It means that if something happened, I would be homeless. That if the water went out and my pump went out of my house, I'm done. I gotta move. I can't find another pump. If my car breaks down, I don't get to work. If I get sick and break a leg and miss 3 weeks of work, I'm done. I'm living paycheck to paycheck, and if I miss one, I'm in trouble.
Well, you know what, too, I noticed, and it's actually something we've all gotten away from, I think, or a lot of us, is like the home-cooked meals and sitting around the table. You know, friends of mine that grew up in some of the smaller towns, you know, they bring their burritos and were always embarrassed that they didn't get to eat the school food. Whereas the kids eating school food wanted the burritos, but of course that child felt different. But they don't eat out. You know, most of those poverty families, they don't eat out. They cook at home with what they can, and I mean, and so, you know, the exposure and putting money back into the economy is not happening.
No. Latinos and less educated Californians continue to have dramatically higher poverty rates. I copied and pasted this, folks. I didn't make this up. In 2017, 24% of Latinos lived in poverty, compared with 17.5% of African Americans, 16% of Asian Americans, 12% of white ones. This is in California. Though poverty among Latinos is down, Latinos remain disproportionately poor, making up 52% of poor Californians, but 40% of all Californians. More education continues to be associated with strikingly lower poverty rates. 8% of adults with a college degree are in poverty versus 31% of those without a high school diploma. Okay? Think about your class for a moment. What does your class look like? What are the demographics of your class? Now, some of y'all are coming from the mountains. Charter school is a little different. Charter school, no school. What does our class look like? It's like 90% Hispanic for many of us, or more, right? Okay. I found this one very interesting. Did you have a stereotype of what it means to be poor? I did. I thought it meant I just kick it and let social services take care of me. I don't have to work. Most poor families are working. 80%. I thought that was a startling statistic. 80% of poor Californians lived in a family with at least one working adult, excluding families of only adult age, 65 and older. 45% of those in poverty, at least one family member reported working full-time for the entire year, while 34 or 35% had a family member who worked part-time and are part of the year. All right, now think about that for a moment, because I had a different stereotype in my mind and I had to reevaluate where I was coming from. What does that tell you about your parents? If 80% of our poor families have at least one working parent in the house, what does that tell you? Okay, so what kind of work are they doing?
Farm work.
Fun work?
Farm labor.
Maybe farm labor, maybe retail, right? Service industry.
Restaurant.
We looked at the number. The median income for Madera was $16,000, so that tells us they're earning minimum wage. Those easy jobs or hard jobs?
Hard.
Are they physical or mental? We're kind of generalizing now. They're mostly, so mom and dad come home after a hard day of work. Do they have any ever leftover energy to participate with what their children are doing? No, we have heard stories over at Washington. My wife tells me that kids are dropped off at daycare as their parents are leaving at 4 in the morning to go to the west side of the valley. Then they go to preschool, then they go back to daycare and wait for their moms to come home 6, 7 o'clock at night. Now, I don't know about y'all, but if I were working that kind of schedule, I'd be dead tired. Don't even mess with me. I don't even know if I could take a shower, I'm so tired. Forget about it, I'm going to bed. They're hardworking people. That's what I took from this. And I didn't have that as part of my kind of picture of what it meant to be poverty. That's a good thing. That's an asset that we can leverage, by the way. All right. I want you to read the article, How Does Poverty Influence Learning? You need to read it individually.
Hey, how many more? I know it's over there, but.
You need to read it individually because I don't want this to be missed by breaking it up and jigsawing it. So read the entire article, and then in your table groups, I want you to discuss the questions that are on the third page.
Well, I have the hotspot, and I already charged my computer. My dad's like, I also so got our thing up to the left, and the house is dark. He has a generator, the TV's floating, the lights off.
Of course, he's going to be going through that. All right.
He's been sleeping in the chair. I'm sorry, I had to sleep in the freezing.
Yes. All right, go ahead and talk in your groups. First question I want you to answer is, what can you control? From the article, what do you as a teacher have control over?
Basically, whatever is like fashion, the love and the warmth that you kind of give them.
I bring sometimes with the other parents that snacks out where no food, the kids are hungry, we have snack for us. I have a few I know come late, but most they get something for snack.
Right. Positive attitude towards
We're in the
the
home,
learning in the
so we're
classroom.
at childcare center, so for us,
Making them feel like they can read, they can do
early
things,
intervention,
and
with
not treating them any different than the other students, even though you know their background's
about how
different.
important it is
Just
to talk to their
having that
children
expectation
and
set,
and even though they may feel uncomfortable doing it, it seems silly. A lot of our families sometimes feel silly doing it. Even just providing them with
Intervention
information maybe in
ideas,
the primary language,
that I thought
so that they
was
kind of understand why it is so important.
thinking about the students
And then
who
also we
probably
do a lot
don't,
of
have never been
workshops
camping,
with our
have never been to the
family
ocean,
center
have
that
never
talks
had
about
those
either,
life experiences,
IEPs or,
trying to create some experience for them on that specific subject, watching videos, talking about
and it
it,
also talks
how would
about,
they feel, kind of trying to make that
as far
experience
as
happen so it builds their vocabulary compared to the other
maybe
students, and then
recommending ones that are
just bringing them in. Like I think about like I'm dealing with kindergartners, so they haven't experienced a lot in life. So like when 9/11 came, we were supposed to talk about it, so giving them an experience, and then there was a student who actually went to see the Twin Towers or see saw the memorial, and let him come up and really talk about it and what it meant to him as a kindergartner. So, and then integrating the students who do have experience and how does it
She
feel.
doesn't say it. She doesn't tell us to come and cry. She does, that sanitation with other kids, it's just difficult. So what we try is to give resources to each other. It's real good, shelter is not family.
even in the daycare when I have
Whether it's the stuff, because I know parents are working.
We don't know if he's
From 4
Go by the street with sweaters for the kids towards like the
So a
suburbs
lot of
and
when we
stuff.
go out there, we have to really be very careful and hold any bias that we have. Because in the moment, being truly in the mind of parents and families and listening to them and helping them advocate for their children. So there's a lot of
Had a kid who was struggling a lot because of the whole daycare issue. So he was sleeping in class, so I had to give him like 5-10 minutes of rest.
I would definitely say the learning environment. I have students that come to school. I have one student coming to school for a while. Like, I'm stupid. I'm not smart. I don't get it. Like, all this stuff. And, like, this poor kid has gone through a lot within the year between losing his hearing and stuff. Like, just his whole family life went to shambles and whatever. And he's coming to school. I'm not smart. I can't do this. I'm stupid. I don't know. And I'm like, but this is why you come to school. You come to school to learn. Like, if you already knew everything there is to know, you wouldn't have to come to school. I was like, nobody expects you to know any of this stuff.
Yeah.
That's why we're here to teach you. And he's just like, okay. And that went on for a while. He's gotten better now, but it's just like,
I think something that we
there's a lot
learned
of things that's like,
that was my first year, we talked about having 2-minute conversations with students just randomly on the playground,
buses
not during
getting
class time,
late,
just like out.
you know, because the bus
Said
driver had to pull
a
over for this
difficult
reason.
student
The
here.
bus driver was talking
So we were out on the playground and I had a 2-minute conversation with them.
we do
And that
cooking
2 minutes
anyway,
I found
so
out
like
that
one day a week, you know.
one of the reasons I probably misbehaved so much in class was because
last on the bus.
his sister was younger and he was a kindergartner, so she was like 2. And we did all night watching TV. And he was telling me about how she didn't get to sleep because she was up, it was frustrating, she didn't give pictures. It made a lot of sense why he behaved the way he did. So then when I could see he was tired, then I would let him go and he sensitized him in this one quiet area. And then after he got done, let him draw a picture of how he felt after he got to rest and how it felt. But, you know, at first I just thought, man, what is the deal? And then it made more sense through just having that 2-minute conversation with them and now. And I really just was like, so how was your night? What did you do? And I really was genuinely wanted to know what he was doing. And he's like, well, I played Minecraft and I did this and I did that. But then my sister didn't let me sleep since I was up all night. And then I didn't sleep when I got up and my mom was yelling at me. And I was just like,
she was like taking
now I know why you're upset.
I passed him out to Minecraft too. Like I'm just like, I've got a bunch of lemons. Here you go.
Just having
my persimmons are almost ready, by the way.
You know,
I'm taking those
not like digging yourself, you're just trying to figure out.
I usually am like,
right. And I would do that with all of
take
us.
all
I make
you
sure
want.
it was all the students within the first
But
month,
yeah.
whether they behaved badly or not, just so I could see where they were coming from. And
Intervention ideas. I just had an IEP today with a parent that is
what is one idea?
my challenge. This parent refuses to learn how to
They're so hungry.
They
All the
are.
time. And
Yeah.
now our school does like vegetables. I'm like, wow.
I found out doesn't wear his hearing aid
I
because
don't like
it's too loud.
I'm like, I can't even imagine being.
And mom
like,
wanted
I
to
want
create an
some.
IEP goal a while back. But this kid must wear his hearing aid all the time at school. Like she doesn't send it to school with him.
Supplemental readings.
And he doesn't wear it. I found out today he doesn't wear it at home either. So I'm like, do you really want to keep this goal on there if he's not wearing it anytime? And he's like saying it's too loud, and she's like, yeah, we'll keep the goal. I'm like, okay. But this parent refused.
All right, guys, I'm gonna let you finish thinking about those questions.
I may have final answer today.
But what jumped out at you? What do you have control over? Of those 7 things that they listed, what do you have control over? Do you have control over their mobility? No. A little bit of their health and well-being to a degree, but it's limited. What else?
If you have resources that came to a classroom or books and stuff.
All right, so we can provide them. Now you know why you're getting supplies for pencils and pens to hand out, why we have schools that give away free backpacks. We even have schools in Madera that give away jackets at Christmas time, and the community participates in that. So there are some resources that we can provide. Now you understand why, if you're at Minaret's High School, you buy your own lappy, but now at most of your sites you're loaning them Chromebooks, right? Because they don't have to bring their own. And so you're getting some distinctions. All right, what else can we control? Literacy development, the younger the better. I think, and I'm not quite sure if my number's right, but it's somewhere close. That by the time they get to kindergarten, students in poverty have heard and dealt with 6 million less words than their peers in middle class. Think about that for a moment.
That's crazy.
And now I begin to understand, mom and dad have been working 12-hour days, 14-hour days, and it's a manual job where they're washing dishes. Have you ever washed dishes for somebody, volunteered for like 4 hours? How'd your back feel when you were done? But could you even move, right? Can you imagine you're doing dishwashing 8 hours a day, washing cars 8 hours a day? I painted houses while I was in college. Oh my gosh. Cleaning, it's hard work, right? You don't have time left to come home. You're not having those discussions. You're not reading those books. By the way, if you're living in poverty, do you think you have books? Kevin, you have 2, 3 kids at home now? 2? How many books do you own for the kids?
A lot.
Over 100? His wife's a librarian, by the way.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. We have hundreds of books in our house. My stepdaughter's now onto the tablet thing, right? Hundreds of books on the tablet, right? And, do they even have tablets? There was another statistic. I could have gone and drilled down farther. How many people have broadband internet in Madera, it's like 75%. How many have internet? How many? There's crazy numbers out there. All right. What's an intervention that came to your mind as you were reading the article? All right, let me ask you this way. How many times have, in a professional development of some sort, or when you're going through your credentialing process, they talk about pre-teaching vocabulary before you read something? Is that an intervention that we can run?
Yes.
Is it needed?
Yeah.
Do you kind of get why some of your students don't understand what you're doing and they will never ask you? They're embarrassed. I don't know. I felt that way even in college. I'm not sticking my hand up. I don't want to look dumb, right? Okay. What's another intervention idea you have?
I do, most of the students probably haven't been camping or going to the beach or things like that. So I'll create a day at the beach, create a day going camping, and we talk about what you do and then bring up videos, and then if students have done that, they come up and talk about their experience, and then we'll bring items and we'll touch them. And
So you have some realia.
yeah.
You heard that word in your credentialing class? Realia. You can touch it. You're creating prior knowledge. Now you can access it. Oh, good. What's another intervention you guys come up with? How many of you do word walls? How many of you thought about doing word walls? I mean, what's a word wall? What else can we do? If literacy is the single biggest deficit for children with poverty, and we know that you have children in your classroom with poverty, we need to do something. Did you guys come up with some ideas? You're all looking at me like, I don't know. It's not Monday. Come on, it is Monday.
It is Monday.
What did you think about?
Look, I teach English, so one thing that I do is I have words of the day in my classroom, so we have a contest.
There you go.
I have a warm-up in my classes, so at the end of it, I just put the word, whether it, it's an academic word. And so it's up to the students to see the word and then have the wherewithal to look up the definition, write it on the board, but they have to have a complete definition.
Good.
And so this allows everyone in the class to see the word, but the student who has enough sense to put it on the board, of course, gets a few extra points. But in the contest form, they're eager to do it, but they're learning words without realizing.
And that's on a
It's
test,
being
not
taught to
quiz.
them.
Doesn't go in the grade book, but yeah, it's a great way to do a warm-up activity. Fantastic. All right. One of the things that I did tonight on purpose, I remember I moved you to 2 groups, and then you guys came late, so that's why you were there. Why did I do that?
I can read
More resources.
So there's more resources, and what Jenny and I noticed tonight is there's more talking going on. Even though you were broken up into smaller groups, I would have thought the opposite was true. But you guys are talking more, it seems like to us, in large groups. Okay, so why is talking important for students?
Building the language.
They're building language. Okay? All right. What is an idea that you're going to take home? Did you write something down? At least fake me out. Yes, Mr. Norton? Did you write something down? Do you have a new strategy you're going to think about and try? Okay. One more article. We're talking about building rapport with students. And I want you to look at this article called Learning to See Students' Deficits as Strengths. Read this one, and once again, there are 4 questions I want you to answer. And this one may make you cry. So he's gotten... Homework assignments in the classroom. Every grade? We haven't even put them in there. No, for this one. For this one, there's only one. Yeah. Yeah.
Shoot, I couldn't find my hand.
I understand, that's why I was, I knew you were going through a lot, so I was reading to settle down.
I had to come home to take a piece. It's hard too, because you watch this man who was, for lack of a better word, and so arrogant, so pompous. so now she thought he was very single world. And, you know, it worked, I guess. But then, I remember as a kid that people were calling him and he was abusive. And he was abusive to me. And now he's like, nothing like that. And we've had some come to Jesus talks. And he was like, I had no idea. And I said, you didn't do anything I said. Seeing how his relationship with all of us is changing. It's just cool. It's happening.
Yeah, there's these, but really nieces and
yeah.
I can see why you would do that.
I know. You know what? One of my mom's best friends, it said, two things with the heart. So that's what's taught. And then COPD with continuous smoking is written on it. And I read it and something like that. And you think that one's gonna say, and he's just gonna say that.
Steal all the ones you because they're gonna bring it and they're gonna take it.
That's a great outcome.
I have 5 kids in hospital. I don't know.
A long day.
My one kid I wish found was not that they're using a butt.
Why do they always not? They always show up.
Yeah, but the other one that was gone. And then there was just some other one.
We just had ours.
Wow.
Wait, hold on. So it's 5 and
Still getting there.
We still, yeah, we still.
Oh, do you have 22 and a half?
How did it go?
What can I do?
I don't know. I'm 25.
I'm gonna go, I'm gonna go.
Was this the director or your
No, I'm
mentor?
21. 22 kind of me now.
I don't know, I could have done so much better.
Where are you teaching?
I even
Yeah, just tell me now.
First grade classroom.
I am too.
with
I'm at Adams. I always get impacted though because
she's like happy.
All my classes are.
always have high numbers.
That's my biggest.
I mean, we used to have kindergarten meetings and make some act jobs.
You were there.
For jury duty. Oh, you called it? When is it tomorrow?
I have to make sure my plans, I gotta go back and load stuff off my plans and like look at it. I did it.
Did you call? You have to go?
Yeah.
Oh, you could postpone it.
I just got it.
I got
I actually am like, give it to me, break, and then they don't.
Just figured, well, and
Uh-huh.
When I go there,
I have a son already, I just don't have any plans to do.
But at least it's like just the week break. They put on like the federal.
call for a whole
Because I'm in a computer lab. But that's sometimes a problem because it's so big.
I mean, this class I would be bad. This class
We
I
have
should
one on
be fine. Minus one or two, not much.
So I'm over here and then there's one over here. So I'm gonna like over there and by the time I get there.
I still can't believe that's in the class. Like, I'm sorry, I'm like in the preschool world where we've got like, it's just like that many kids.
And they still act like they're in elementary school, so that's what makes it hard. It doesn't seem like they're growing up. They still need all that attention. So that's why I think I got a headache because it's so loud.
We have some calming music and have them infuse some oil.
Right?
Infuse some oil.
Breathe it all in, guys. Well, we can't even have smells in the because that's I like the water to take nights, you know?
I don't know if they were like the same day or if they were like next
We did the shakeout and then we walked out to the fireworks. But I just realized I didn't have enough room underneath for any of my kids to fit.
Right.
And I was standing in the doorway and I was like,
no communication.
to me, I feel like it would have been safer to run my kids outside.
Yeah.
Because I was like, it would have been safe for everybody.
Those desks. Oh my goodness. There you go. Are you okay?
No.
Yeah. They're super
Technically, they'll be better than just the straight concrete.
Yeah. But some of my kids are smart and started asking us.
But usually at home.
Oh, okay.
Well, I mean, if those
He just looked at me and was all fine.
but if there's anything
The air conditioner.
So I started
You can fall down there.
because he was doing it on his
And
own.
where I found out, so I'm pretty sure the air
He doesn't do
conditioner will
shoulder.
right.
Chest.
I heard it too, so.
She's his teacher.
So what?
Let's see how he
Then we have a
feels.
gym room, it's all mad kids. We got
Oh,
paint on the carpet. I said, well, yeah, I asked you guys
Okay,
to
it's
tile
because
already
I was
3
giving him
times.
his meds.
We do painting, we do
He takes his
Play-Doh.
meds just fine at night. In the morning, he's
That
got
already makes me get so mad.
for the rest of his lunch. He's got to have his graham crackers before he takes his medicine. Let me tell you, I was trying to give him his
Go
medicine
somewhere else. He does not belong in our environment.
Like, before he had his graham cracker. So I put his graham cracker in his hand and tried to get him
His
his
daughter
spit it
goes
out. And I'm like,
we were so
I
mad.
was 10 minutes late. I was like,
No one asked us.
no one asked us if he does daycare at Trish Tag Day. She'll give him his meds. I was like, he has to be fully awake
So sad.
before he gets his meds.
Oh, yeah, right.
I called them and I could have. You just call
Well,
it
it said, but he likes the
It's just
taste,
the
and he
finest
takes
glue
like
over there. I
Benadryl
don't
just
hear that
fine,
thing that popped up.
Dimetat. He takes
They were
Benadryl.
just-
He actually will like shove it in his mouth and
I've taken
go.
4 of them.
Yeah, he likes the taste of this other one.
They know to go.
He's totally fine. It's just his.
I never got to. I just never got morning. Maybe you're just
Yeah.
don't mess with it. But
Yeah.
I remember maybe as an adult.
What grade do you teach?
Especially in the morning.
It's so bitter in the
They
morning.
try to. They want to be like the last person.
Like my daycare, they want to stop and drive to my house.
Make it so we
Less than 5 minutes. I can walk there, right? By the time we get to daycare, that blanket's over his face.
And that's of course what he was doing in women.
I have
And then I
pictures
did
of
that.
that.
I don't know if that works, but for the group they
But it was really nice.
Yes.
We have all the kids at
So I told him to get a
daycare.
candy.
He's like, we walked in together this morning, like while he was carrying him like over me. And everyone was like, and all the little ones that he beats up. They were like, Aiden's here, hi Aiden. I'm just like, my kid needs to get one of his friends. At least he's still loved. He's still loved. I showed up to pick him up from daycare. They had just pushed the little girl down the slide. Although we went to Fast Lake on Saturday, and they had like bounce houses and stuff, they had a little carnival going, he pushed a 7-year-old kid.
I see the brother.
My son is
It's the whole dysfunction, but
He's
whatever.
37 inches tall. He's the size of a 3-year-old.
He's solid.
He's so salary. I need to girl. I just like
He is. Let me tell you.
She's got lucky. Yeah, she's smart. Like I think that's. I'm glad you're smart, but
Yeah.
No, well they had like pumpkins as like decorations,
Is that the one that?
I was wondering if it's the one that in the mountains.
but then they did like Halloween party. Oh, so there was.
All right,
The one
guys.
with the maze. Like
So what challenges were presented, do you think, just kind of anticipating, when he made those changes, hey, I want more kids talking, yes, it's okay that they're talking Spanish in the back, now I get it. Oh, you can stop me anytime you want, if the nose, you think of the Sting, right? Anyone watch the Sting? Did you see the Sting?
Well,
She don't want to admit it, because
Well, when they stop you before you even get to the explanation of what you're trying to do,
Right.
they don't have the patience to wait. Hold on,
There you
hold
go.
on to your questions, and I
That's a
can see
good
that.
point. Sometimes they might jump out too soon.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
did you ever see Robert Redford and what was his buddy, Paul Newman in The Sting? Y'all never seen that movie?
I know, it's very famous.
You need to go watch it. It is a classic. I watched it as a kid. It was not like, I watched the reruns on TV, so that's how old it is. And both Robert Redford, Robert Redford's still alive, but Paul Newman is there. You gotta see it. Anyway, one of the signals they used, that's why I want, was the guy touched his nose, right? What is the kid trying to say? I'm too bashful to shout out, hey, slow down. I mean, that would never have been me. I don't, right? But one kid's like this, right? Another kid, she said she had he said he had red, yellow, and green lights that he would flash up.
Yeah, the cards.
Right, okay. So, making all kinds of accommodations here, realizing that she was talking too fast in English when their native language was Spanish. And have you ever even thought about that? I haven't. One thing I noticed, and it happens in here, and I'm a little worried. I would have juniors and seniors, and I would tell jokes, and they didn't get them, right? Or one kid would get them, right? And I'm, okay, and I tell jokes in here, and y'all don't get them, so now I'm worried. You said one problem could be that they jump up too soon before you finish. All right, what's another one?
The one girl texting, it may not be fair to others.
Okay, so that's interesting. Now, she's texting, that means he's kind of having to look at his phone all the time. So you're right, okay. So not everything's going to work. But did you get some kind of ideas? Now let me ask you that question. Have you tried some accommodations? And did it affect the classroom management?
I just try to be discreet.
Okay. So it didn't affect classroom management. Did it help?
Yeah.
Because the kids weren't feeling like so anxious, or?
Well, I have a student, since I teach Spanish, and I teach at MLK in Desmond, MLK, most of my students are Spanish speakers. So Spanish class is not too difficult for them. But at Desmond, I have a mixture of levels. And this is 1B where I have to make the adjustment. So they should already know some Spanish in 1B, and I have about 3 that have no clue what I'm saying in Spanish.
Interesting.
And they can't even write me a sentence when others can write me a paragraph.
Wow.
And so...
Welcome to our world.
Yeah, and so it's hard because I have to make it challenging for the rest, for the majority. But what I do is just decrease the amount of work, and then I pull them in during lunch to those that need the extra help. And at first, I had one that would shut down, and I would feel so bad because I'm like, okay, I have like a whole bunch of other kids, and
y'all had that problem with the other way on the other foot? We had the same problem with Spanish speakers trying to learn English.
And so I told them, someone told me to tell them also to share with them. The same way you feel in Spanish class because you don't know Spanish, that's how others feel in regular class because they don't know English.
Exactly.
And so me helping them kind of made them aware that I know where they're at, and they feel so much better now.
Nice.
And so now he comes in excited. He's a tough kid. He's one of those that he's in SRC for the rest of the year. So that means he's lunch attention for the rest of the year.
What does SRC mean?
It's kind of like
Student Responsibility Center or Student Suspension Center.
where they get
on-campus
sent when the
suspension.
teacher doesn't, when they misbehave too much, so they get sent out. And so he basically, it's like in school suspension. And so I kind of talked to him, and now I have a great relationship with him, and he comes in, hey, Miss Doctor, all excited. So
you're building rapport with him?
Yeah. And at the same time, bringing him in to have that extra support.
And the relationship you're building with him is helping him succeed academically? Yeah.
Because
you want to deliver the rest of our class tonight? Because that's what we're talking about.
No, but it's helping him, so I'm really happy because he comes in really happy now.
Interesting. So when we think of rapport with students, we kind of try to, because I'm the total nerd guy, but we're trying to be the cool guy, right? What's up, dog? How you doing? You know, hey, you know. And really what you're saying is, you know what, I met with kids' needs with where they're at, and all of a sudden we had a relationship because he felt like I actually cared about him.
Yeah.
And could see it because I was making all this extra effort, and his effort reflected your effort. Interesting. All right. Have you noticed any other students that are falling behind in your classroom?
I had a student, and you could tell he was low, and so I met with his mom because he kept poking kids in the eyeballs like seriously like 20 times in a week, and kind of find out that he was brain dead for 3 to 4 minutes, and then they revived him when he was born, you know, like when he was born. So Head Start Harry said apparently that he had a learning disability, but nothing got put in any writing, so I could tell he needed help, and so I realized he was poking them in the eyes because he liked their eyes. So then I talked with some of the students and explained that he likes you as a friend and he wants more communication with you, but just started speaking at the end of his Head Start year. So now he comes back with me and we spend a lot of time together, and I do a lot of social emotional development for him so he can go back out on the playground, because he can't right now because he keeps hurting other students, not on purpose. So I think learning your students so that you know. And then another one, he speaks Spanish, but when I had a conference with Mom, where Mom speaks Spanish, but she said he doesn't speak a lot of Spanish at home. But Mom only speaks Spanish. But he has like 12 siblings. So he's very shy. He's the youngest of 12. So I just started partnering, grouping him with other students that I can see he was comfortable with, so he will talk, because he can sit there and actually count out to 12, but if I ask him to tell me, can you count to 12, he won't do it. So just learning how to get the answers out of them in a different way.
Okay. One of the things that we miss in building rapport is that and I do it too, is that we have a tendency to think that these kids were raised the way you were raised. And most of you, not all of you, but most of you, like me, had two parents in the house. Okay? Is that true? Mm-hmm. I'd be willing to bet, and I would like to turn the tape off for this, but I won't. I'd be willing to bet that most of you, and this is totally way out there in left field, but I think it's true. I'd be willing to bet out of the, 16 people here tonight, 15 people, 10 of you at least, your dad's your hero. Or when you were growing up, your dad was your hero. That's not true for everybody, and that doesn't mean you can't succeed without that. But I'd be willing to bet a $20 bill that 10 out of 15 of you would say, yep, my dad was my hero growing up. That's true for me. My dad celebrated his 79th birthday, and that's what I wrote on his birthday card. You're still my hero, right? And we find that the kids that have a normal relationship with their dad, that doesn't have to be in their house, but it helps, have a much better adjustment to school. They have much more self-confidence. There's all kinds of statistics in there. I could have gone that way as well, but that leads me to my preaching box, so I want to try to leave that one alone. But there is an interesting thought that when you grow up with your dad as your hero, you have a tendency to be more centered and more confident. What we don't understand is the trauma, not the drama. Everybody has drama. Everybody has drama. What we don't understand is the trauma that our students have experienced before they come to see you. And I'm talking to my wife, who's a preschool teacher at Washington, and one of the nice things they did for her this year is they're allowing her to have the afternoons to go and help other teachers in the district in preschool. So she has a morning class, and then she's running all over the place. And ran into a child that was really struggling, and teachers calling for help, and she spent many days in this classroom with this one student. And I won't go into details, but she just told me this child has suffered more trauma in the 4 years of his life than you and I have in our entire life. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And my wife, this is a kid that's hard to control, totally falling in love with this kid, and the kid is responding because of that. First we talked about those clear boundaries or structure. Mm-hmm. Every kid wants that. But doesn't that feel loving too? I mean, which parent wouldn't buckle their kids in their seatbelt? The ones that don't care, right? Which parent doesn't discipline their kids? How many of you are parents? Come on, raise it, be proud, you're a mom and dad. All right, do you punish your kids when they do get out of line?
Yeah.
Harsh?
Harsh verbally.
Time out, give me the cell phone, no TV, you're grounded.
Yeah, no Xbox, and I'll play in front of them.
No Xbox, oh my gosh, that's horrible, right? Why? Why are you so hard on your kids?
Because I have expectations of them.
And you, heck yeah. Don't you get it? When kids are corrected correctly, they're receiving your love. They're receiving your affection, even when you're chewing them out and expecting better from them. Because if you think about it, that's what your mom and dad did to you. I remember being on a Little League team. My dad was the coach. Who was the one he yelled at the most? Yeah. Why? He had higher expectations for me. Knew he could take it. I knew I would have her. Eventually I had to, yeah, okay, Dad, you're not coaching anymore, right? All right. what are some ideas that you want to try that you heard in your table groups about these accommodations for these kiddos? Did you hear some ideas tonight that you might want to try? Or from the article?
Making sure to speak slowly. I teach kindergarten. You have to speak slowly, but sometimes you're on a time crunch, half days, all last week, and you just feel like you're rushing, rush. Go deeper instead of wider.
You ever have an extra cup of coffee and you're talking like this, okay, let's go, come on now, we got a little chocolate for the morning, I had a chocolate donut, and we really go, let's go, and what the kids are like, looking at you like you're looking at me? Slow down, okay, good, what else?
Have them repeat that directions for us.
Repeat directions for us. Nice, I like that. What did you think of the two students that were writing in Spanish and then translating into English? Is that something you would want to try? Or allow? You're like, I got 3 languages going on, help me here.
Pretty much.
Well, they'd have to be proficient in their own language first before that.
Okay.
And so you have to know whether they were able to do that.
Sure.
For that transfer of knowledge.
Good. All right. The point is of tonight, and we have a few more things we're going to do before we let you out of here. We have a packed night. But the point is to really get to know your students. And I hope that you've seen that we're pulling some serious layers back and really understanding where are your students' needs are and how do you meet them in an attempt, as we were finding out, hey, when I meet those students' needs, they blossom into something wonderful, where all the other teachers are complaining about this student, you're like, I don't have any problem with them.
I really don't.
But all the rest of them do, because that's why he's in lunch detention for the rest of the year. Alright, so he must have done some crazy stuff out there. The other kids don't like him, because he's causing problems. But he's not causing problems in your class. So now he's beginning to make friends, maybe for the first time in his life. Do you realize what a champion you are to the students?
I hope so.
Because you, like our video, chose to believe in him. You have rocked his world in 3 months. August, September, October. In 3 months, you have rocked his world. Yeah, you should be smiling all the way home tonight. Right? Isn't that why you got into education anyway? Because it sure isn't for the paycheck, even though it's twice what the median income is.
We got twice the a debt.
The more money you make, the more you spend, isn't it?
Come on.
All right. So, we're going to finish tonight talking about building rapport with our students. I've got a few more activities to do that, but to leave you there, I'm going to turn you back over to Jenny.
What? Okay.
Well, it's easy for me to get back on my. I like to talk to you.
He's a minister, and that's what happens. Okay. So you're in class, and a kid is shaking his knee. You notice it, but the kids aren't even paying attention to the kid. You have to ask yourself 3 questions, and they're called CIQs, or classroom integrity questions. If the kid, let's say Mary's shaking her leg, and I'm looking around, can I still teach with that happening? Doesn't bother me, right? The kids don't seem to be affected by it, and the kid is still paying attention. Let's say the suspect is still paying attention, right? I mean, some people think better when they're shaking their leg, or now if it's something where they're tapping a table and it might annoy their friends, ask yourself these 3 questions. Can you continue to teach while it's happening? Can the other students continue to learn? And can the students still learn? That's what you do. I think if you can remember, as soon as something happens, you'll get into the practice of it automatically clicking in. And you're going to be like, oh, heck no, I can't keep doing that. And so that's when you're going to have to address it. You can do diffusers. I mean, in this case, she's not being a smart mouth. She's just being annoying. So I can walk over and just say, hey, is there any way, I need you to stop that. Don't ask. I still ask all the time, but I go over and say, I need you to stop that. And she's probably going to say, okay, and then end up doing something else. But if it's the kid that's doing the tapping and he's destroying everybody else's attention, that's when I really need to jump on. I may not have jumped on hers because nobody was reacting. But let's say I go to the kid that's doing this. I'm like, hey, is there any way you can not do that? Because it's upsetting everybody else. And the kid goes, screw you, I'm going to do it anyway, which some of them might. Then you take it to the next step. And we haven't really gotten there. But, you know, you can do the Queen Victoria. You can do the stand near them, which, of course, that corrects a lot of problems because nobody likes somebody standing over them. You know? And they start thinking, why are they standing there? What are they going to do to me? So the proximity thing will quell a lot of problems. But biggest thing, so the whole point in what we're trying to do is eliminate or reduce the low-level stuff that ends up getting exacerbated and ruins the day. Ruins your day, ruins the kid's day, ruins everybody's day. So ask yourself these questions when something happens. Now granted, the kid threw a pencil and it stuck in somebody's head. You don't have time to go, can he still learn that? You know, can I still teach while he's gushing? No, I can't. So, I mean, obviously those kind of things are clear, you know. But if it's something little, ask yourself these questions. And the last component, self-control, stay calm, confident and quiet. That's where I struggle. I want to talk through everything. And if you're quiet, they get nervous. Case in point, we were on a field trip. 2 big buses, charter buses with avid kids. And as we're coming into Kettleman, which you know is a fun town to have 120 kids at, and we're at the stop with all the restaurants, and our bus won't start. And it's already like 9. I mean, I'm in bed by 9. And I'm the El Jefe for this group, and I just got out, and I walked over to a curb, and I was just standing there, trying to calm down. I was so pissed. I just wanted to go home. And one of the kids came up and said, "You're mad, aren't you?" I said, "Yeah, a little bit." She says, "We all knew it because you walked off quiet." I'm like, oh, so that tells me how loud I am. Yeah, I was furious, and we ended up being there another 4 hours.
Oh, no.
They brought a mechanic from Visalia, so we had to wait, and he was off duty and apparently very busy with his wife, and he didn't get there till 4 hours later. Teach Jews, I think, you know, from what we have heard since we've done this, a lot of people say the Teach Twos knocks a huge problem. You know, it knocks your problem rate, or whatever I want to say, way down, because those kids, once they know what to do and what you expect, when they mess up, all you have to say is, "Do you remember how to do this?" And if they are just a jerk, then you deal with the higher end discipline. But if it's just a kid who doesn't know, it's easy to just remind them. Remember, we did this in Teach Twos, blah, blah, blah. And like this would have saved me as a teacher, saved me. I didn't do it. I did it on some things instinctively, but not everything. And so like, pet peeve was pulling out desks, because we had the desk and chair together. And I'd say, let's get into a circle, and all the kids would grab their desk and go across the floor. By the time they all got there, I was so furious that and in my head I'm like, why didn't I teach that? I could have taught that and made it so much smoother and quicker, but I didn't. I'd rather get mad and yell and, you know, do all those things. So make your life easier, and when you're having trouble with a kid or this kid's driving you crazy, ask yourself, is there something I could do to teach him and work with it or her and get through that? And develop rapport. This is my big thing. If the kids know you love them, they will do anything for you. They will go through walls for you. And that was one of the things I learned, because I think I mentioned they put me in English and I was really a history major. So I was in a subject that I didn't even know very well, other than what you learn like just by being a student. And they put me in that, and I remember thinking, I don't know crap about English. And as I started teaching, you know, in my head I was like, stay one chapter ahead, and what they always tell you if you're teaching something you don't know. And it wasn't that. It wasn't. My kids still ended up with the best scores. I didn't teach the test. I didn't do any of that. It was because I was their cheerleader, and I wanted them, I would tell them, you guys are awesome, you can do this. I'd meet them before the test with snacks, I mean, different things, because they need to know that you believe in them. And you'll be surprised how many actually will bust through to get done instead of writing little Christmas trees or whatever. I mean, I think these kids do it all on the computer, but... Oh, Gandhi. A teacher who establishes rapport with the taught, becomes one with them, learns more from them than he teaches them. I mean, really, if we approach every day as teachers that it's a learning opportunity for us too, I think that keeps us fresh in our thinking. So real quick, list the many ways you can develop rapport with your kids. Okay? It can be anything, but I want you guys to think about it real quick. You guys probably have to go grab over there real quick. You only got 5.
Extra hour.
Perfect. Different things you can do.
Do we do it on both posters? Or do
Two teams. You can split your table in half.
I open my classroom.
Split your table in half.
I open my classroom. I make sure that with my time that we reach out to the I mean, I'm still doing my work, but they're welcome to come over. From going on, so you have to know a lot about your kids.
It's only used once in 6 hours.
like one-on-one with certain students?
Getting to know their interests.
Yeah.
Sometimes I take like the student
But when you start comparing doing their work to practice, like practice in a sport, all of a sudden you mention sport and you know what everybody does. You know, they're doing soccer, they're doing karate, and now you can mention sport somehow. So then they give it exactly what they like. So you can tell you about others too.
Yeah.
Sometimes just laughing with them.
Video games, so that's developed so many conversations with my boys.
Yeah, and I'm dancing.
I don't know before, but lots of brain breaks.
Are you hearing that? Creativity, connectivity. I'm not like open up to the passion and I'm not like. Yeah, I haven't done that. I've been teaching for so long, and I usually don't do that. But
what if I just say open the classroom?
Yeah, open the classroom and
I play like
I don't do it during recess time, I usually don't do it, but I do it in the morning.
And then this one, we have the two.
Well, what about just
I tell them my hobbies, and if anybody likes my hobby, then they always have to
talk about hobbies?
Nope.
I was trying to
I would ask you something you're like, I don't know.
that even gets my girls.
Did you have options with activities? Like, sometimes I'll do like write about
Like we're gonna actually sing happy birthday to my son and do a video and send it to him for his birthday. So it's
It may be a failure.
You've been on a road trip and say sorry.
Yeah, and then it's just like obvious person when you say, yeah, you shouldn't put procrastinate on this, because I've done that. Or like,
I know we have really pain and
tell you, say sorry when you make mistakes.
Charges and stuff.
For events. Yeah, sports events.
You can tell you like first grade teachers don't talk, you know. Creativity,
Oh, and then from there,
and I'm all like, you know, pretty great. We're just because all mine are like designed to, they can like play by themselves.
When you're done hanging up.
Mix up. I noticed that after that show, I was like, okay. Like, you're going in class and didn't talk about
Okay, go.
Big black guys?
This one might sound kind of weird, but like contacting parents, because the students know
Oh, yeah.
that you're willing to
So,
talk
like,
to the parent.
Yeah, that's really good minutes.
Yeah. So I mean, if the parent talks to them, like teach the parents not to call home.
That's true. She will call home.
Yeah. Right.
It's ours.
But it builds a rapport, because it's like, well, they care.
Last week, you're almost done? Oh, yeah.
Positive
Yeah. Availability.
I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
Surprised when I bought it. I got one day.
Did you buy it or school buy it?
School bought it, but it was like a 2-pack.
Yeah. And it was like, I think only $30. Like, it's not cheap, but it's really big. It's bigger than that, and it has a line. Oh, yeah. I love that one. That one's a good one, but I really like it's roofing it because it doesn't like. I feel like yeah. But I do have my own laptop, and then I always make sure underneath it, and I'm like, yeah.
All right, here's what you guys are gonna do. All right, hang out. You guys can hang them up.
We gotta
Hang them up there, up here, whatever. Actually, if you do it up here, then I can have right this little.
Right.
I figure it'll all be off. All right, real quick, because we don't have time to do the whole carousel kind of deal. I want you to kind of just, as I'm reading them, look over them and see if there's something maybe you guys didn't think about. So to develop the core, 2-minute conversations. Open your classroom in the morning, let them wander in. Getting to know their interests. We're going to talk about that when we do lesson plans. Relate everything back to an activity or to something you know about their life, maybe. Brain breaks, absolutely. Keep in mind that even if you change activities, but they're the same kind of activities, you're killing them. So make it change. Change the different things so you use the different parts of their brain. Asking them more about their weekends. You might find out a lot about the family there. Hang out at recess, walking to lunch, ask questions, sharing about your life to class. I think a lot of teachers are afraid about sharing. And you don't have to share everything. I mean, but there is so much of your life that you can share with them so that they know that you're human. They're still going to be in shock when you show up at Walmart and they're there, but you can at least just hide them one ball. You shop.
Assistant manager at McDonald's was a former student of mine, and every time I go there, I get the employee discount.
So creativity. By you showing your creativity, you're going to draw kids in. If you're creative, I'm not. But fun activities, team builders, love them. Avid's all about that. So, and a long time ago was almost a PE teacher, so I got to go to the Cal Poly camp. Got all kinds of stuff. Random dancing, yes. Break it up. Be crazy. Like there were days that I would walk in and just be singing, and the kids are like, you know, high school kids, you're supposed to be cool. Or I'd like wear shoes that didn't match, or yeah, and I'd always preface by saying, yeah, I know my shoes are wrong, or I know my shirt doesn't match, or whatever. There was one day I came in with my shirt completely inside out. All day, nobody said anything. Play games, open classroom, we talked about that again. Play games. You know, if you've ever noticed when they're having fun, they tend to reveal quite a bit. Teenagers, little kids, whatever. Play games, talk about hobbies. Admit failures and say sorry, and actively listen. Just say sorry. I don't know if you guys grew up with a father that was never wrong. And if you didn't take his political beliefs, you were an idiot, right? Okay. Which is making it interesting for my dad right now, because my mom, his big supporter, is gone. So when he becomes a jerk, we just leave, and he panics because it's kind of changed the whole thing. So it's been kind of nice. And we told him, if we didn't believe what you believed, you called us idiots. No, I didn't. Like, he didn't even think he did it. I'm like, but you know, because of that, I made sure I said I was sorry when I was mean or when I was short with somebody. And I think that's huge because these kids don't get that. Ask about their likes and dislikes, greeting them at the door. Cutest one is that sign where they have like happy, sad, need a hug, something else, and they tap it and the teacher, yeah, I love that. Games with kids, learning home life and background. If a student asks a question you don't know the answer to, look it up. Don't be afraid to admit you don't know. That was my biggest fear, not being an English major. It was that they were going to go, Miss Taylor, you're so stupid. Or that at some point my secret was going to be out, you know? And so don't be afraid to admit you're wrong. Show empathy, encouragement, and positive reinforcement. I think more kids are going to respond to you redirecting than punitive actions. So keep that in mind. Greeting students at the door, talking one-on-one, talking to their interests inside and out, laughing at them, learn about them, honesty, contacting parents, even for good calls. That's so rare for some of these people. And usually the first week of school, if you call the worst kid in the school and call his mom and say, I'm just calling to tell you I enjoy him in my class, you're going to have that woman on your side forever. So make sure you do the positives. Honesty, vulnerable, tell your stories. If you're having a bad day, tell them. Giving them options and being outside of the classroom and availability. Yeah, don't lock yourself in your room. In high school, I left my door open. That meant I never got a lunch, but it was worth it because it was a safe place for some of the odd children. Any questions about this? If you want to take, you could always take pictures of these instead of trying to write them in, but I think they're good ideas. The talking one-on-one. My big thing is take the time to talk to your kids. If you have a minute, like if you have them come up and go over anything, take that second and use that as a building opportunity. And if you notice a kid is really down, talk to him. I think I mentioned this real quick. I had a gangbanger sitting in class, never made eye contact, nothing. Did I ever tell you this? And he was nothing. Like he never even looked at me.
You'll have to save it for next time.
Huh?
You'll have to save it for next time.
No, it's fast. But he did not want to do anything, but one day he had his head down, and I said, you okay? And you know, he looked up and just nodded. A few weeks later, he heard me talking about my my car that I couldn't afford. And he goes, Miss Taylor, you got good insurance? I'm like, yeah. Well, Miss Taylor, we can just take it out to the Kearney Park and burn it, and you'll be and I was like, you know what? I appreciate that so much, but I really like my credential, and it's not going to happen. But it was cute because that's what he knew. All right, who believed in you? Think back to your childhood. Who believed in you? You're going to share how did it make a difference. And two, it's all in the classroom, believe it or not. This article, which is another article based on poverty. Any questions?
It's already generated an email to you in the classroom.
Everything's in the classroom. Hey, I didn't put stuff in the first time or the second time. I was just obviously all over the place.